I'm going to speak on now are of the most important at the Seder, so make sure to listen carefully. Here we go. Okay, we will start with the next part of the Seder, which is Motzi Matzah. Listen carefully, okay, my holy friends, listen carefully. Okay, the Torah tells us 3 words. Ba'erev tochlu matzah. So the night of the 15th of Nisan, you're supposed to eat matzah. This is the only time in the entire year that you will fulfill a mitzvah mid'oraisa of eating. Okay, there's one time of the year you have a mitzvah from the Torah to eat. This is it. So we have to make sure we do it properly and we do it well. We're talking now about Motzi Matzah, and here we go.
What about bread on Friday night?
It says in the Torah.
It
says in the Torah.
I don't know.
Okay,
Erev Yom Kippur.
Erev Yom Kippur. It's a mitzvah mid'oraisa. Okay, could be. Okay. Okay, here we go. Very simply, I think everyone knows this. The Baal HaBayis, we'll do this very, very simply. The Baal HaBayis picks up 3 matzahs. You have a whole matzah, you have a half matzah, and you have a whole matzah. Everyone know that? The Baal HaBayis says a whole, half, and whole. He picks them up and says one bracha. The bracha is Asher Kedishanu V'Sav V'Tzivanu Motzi Lachem Min Haaretz. Okay, it's a very simple bracha. Now, what he does after that is he drops the bottom matzah, because as you all know, you have to have lechem mishnah. So if you just have the top and the middle, you don't have lechem mishnah. You have 1.5. So that's why you add that third one, so you have at least 2 full ones. Then you drop the bottom one. And now we see another very important bracha, and that is al achilas matzah. Okay, so again, you have the 3. You say al hamotzi on all 2.5. You drop the bottom one, and you say al achilas matzah. Simple? Any questions on that?
No.
What
if your whole one breaks before you got to make the bracha?
Don't let it break. Why is it breaking?
It's fragile.
So you should take another one. If it breaks, you should take another one. You should make sure you have a whole one. Okay, now, very important. Listen carefully, when you're sitting at the Seder, assuming that no one here is going to be leading the Seder, so I will because I'm leading my own Seder, but you don't make those brachos at the Seder. You're going to be Yotzei with the Baal HaBayis. So it's very important that you follow along, you listen to the Baal HaBayis and you say Amen. You say Amen. And listen to this. When he says the second bracha of Al Achilas Matzah, you should have in mind that bracha of eating matzah is not just going on the matzah I'm eating right now, but it's also going to go on Korech, which I'm about to eat after Marror, and also going on Afikoman later on. Okay, so that's just a kavanah. What you'll see in your Haggadah, generally the Haggadah will say this. So any art school Haggadah, random Haggadah will say, have in mind. So when you're sitting there at the Seder, have in mind when the Baal HaBayis says Al Achilas Matzah, this is also covering the matzah I'm going to eat at Korech and the matzah I'm going to eat at Afikoman. Yes, quick.
If you forget, have in mind.
If you forget, it's okay, but you should try to have in mind. Now, what happens after that? So what he does is as follows. Baal HaBayis, now what does he have in his hands now?
The matzah.
How many?
1.5.
1.5, good. Now he starts to break it. Because he dropped the bottom one.
Yeah, now he's 2.
Well, it's 1.5. But 2, you can call it 2. Now he breaks them. Now listen very, very carefully. Okay? I don't want to get too in depth here, but listen very carefully, okay? Technically, you need a kazayas of matzah from both the top matzah and the broken matzah. Okay, listen carefully. When you said al achilas matzah, on which matzah specifically was that bracha going on?
Both.
Okay, so it's a little confusing. It's actually going on the middle matzah. See, the middle matzah is the broken matzah. That's what we call lechem oni. It's poor man's bread. And that's the bracha of eating matzah at the Seder. So when you say your al achilas matzah, that's actually going on the middle matzah. When you say hamotzi, it's going on the top matzah. Why do you have the bottom one? We have the bottom one for lechem mishnah. But really what we're playing with is really just the top 2. You have hamotzi and you have al achilas matzah. The problem is that we're not actually sure if what I said is true. That it could be that the bracha of al achilas matzah is actually not going on the middle matzah, but actually going on the top matzah. And that's why, listen carefully, you actually need to eat 2 kazayis. You need to have a kazayis of matzah from the top, and a kazayis of matzah from the middle broken challah, broken matzah. Okay, so are we clear right now? Meaning, if I'm sitting at the Seder, I'm watching the Baal HaBayis, I'm having in mind, when he says hamotzi, I say amen. When he says al achilas matzah, I say amen, having in mind Korech and Afikomen. And now, watch what's going to happen. The Baal Bayis drops the bottom. You already dropped the bottom. I'm breaking the top matzah and the middle matzah. Technically, every person sitting there needs to have a kazayas from the top and the bottom. Now, it's not possible. Okay? Because even if you have 2 or 3 people at the Seder, there's not enough matzah to have a kazayas from the top and the bottom. And that's why, like Rabbi Kaller said, everyone at the table, I'm sure you have this, there should be matzah around the table so that everyone can have their own pieces of matzah to add to the matzah the Baal Bayis is going to give you. So here's what's going to happen. If you have a good leader, hopefully a parent or someone else, what they should do is everyone at the Seder should get 2 pieces of matzah. It could be very small. A piece in the top and a piece in the middle. Very simple. Okay? So at least you're getting a matzah from the top one, the Motzi one, and the middle one, the alachias matzah one. And then you have to add on your own matzah to make sure that you have 2 kazes in there. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, good. So now, let's take a look at the next step. Next step is as follows. And that is, we'll talk about how much to eat and we'll talk about a time limit. Okay? And that is as follows. The time limit, as we've learned in our share, we'll mention, that I would think that our share has the highest percentage of guys here. That's right. Just want to say that, okay? I won't call out the one guy who's not here. We can call him out after share. Okay, you can look around and find out who that is. You can call him out after share. Okay, so here we go.
Showing up.
So here we go. So listen to this. We learned about, I'm sure many of you learned about, there's a concept called Kedei Achilas Pras, which is an amount of time that you have in order to fulfill a mitzvah of Achila. Listen carefully, okay? Ideally, and you do not need a watch for this, ideally you should eat the amount of matzah, which I'll explain in a second, the amount of matzah that you need, you should eat it within 2 minutes. That's what you should really try to eat your matzah within 2 minutes. And because, like I started with, this is a mitzvah midoraisa, you want to be really careful here. We're very machmir. We're very machmir here. You want to be very, very careful. So ideally, now you don't have to stuff yourself and look silly. I will, in parentheses, I will say that there are those who hold that you actually have to take both kazesim and put them in your mouth at the same time. Okay, it's pretty crazy. So your mouth's like this. And then start to chew it. Okay, so I think you can ask Rabbi Yegoda.
Why?
I think he tries to do that. There are those who say because you want to have the whole mitzvah is both the top and the middle. You want to have everything together. Okay, so it could be that if you asked another rabbi, he would say to do that. My humble opinion, we don't do that.
Why the 2 minutes? The same reason?
There's the 2 minutes is that because anytime we eat something, in order to consider that a real eating, you don't do it over a couple hours. You do it in a very short time. That's in eating. So ideally 2 minutes. You do not have to sit there with your watch. What I would say is, and I'll show you in a second how much matzah to have. Whatever the amount of matzah you need to have is, have it in front of you. Once you get the matzah from the Baal Bayis, 2 pieces, a piece in the top and a piece in the bottom, just start chewing. Okay? Don't talk to your friend, talk to your family. You should really be focused. I'm fulfilling a mitzvah d'oraisa of eating matzah right now. I'm not talking, I'm just eating. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm focused on eating my matzah and finishing that matzah. There are those who say you can do it up to 4 minutes, but just eat your matzah quickly. That's the goal. You don't have to stuff your face, but eat your matzah quickly. Don't talk. Okay, and very important also to lean. Okay, there's a lot going on here. Okay, you got to lean. Okay, like Rabbi Wolf showed us how you're supposed to lean. Okay, so you lean to your left. The truth is, if you forget to lean, you actually have to eat another kazayas with leaning.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so you want to make sure that you lean. Okay, you'll see in your Agada, it'll tell you to lean. But make sure, so there's a lot going on here, okay? So again, to prepare yourselves, make sure you have extra matzah. What happens sometimes is, the Baal Bayis makes Motzi, makes alachias, not passing the matzah around. Here, pass me this. No, make sure that before he does that, you have your matzahs in front of you. He passes you the 2 pieces. You just start eating. You lean to your left and you start eating quickly.
If you just want to eat a ton of matzah, can you not lean a ton of times and just keep eating more?
No, you have to lean for the amount that you need. So about a kazayas, you can at least have a kazayas when you're leaning. Yes.
What if there's not enough matzah in the bracha?
That's what I said. I said there's not for sure not going to be enough matzah.
Then
So as long as you have a small piece in the top, a small piece in the bottom, you add on your own matzah.
Got it. And that better if it's bird type of
It is better. Yes, thank you for the question. It's better. It is better when you're fulfilling this mitzvah d'oraisa to not use the machine matzah, meaning the squares, but rather to use these circle matzahs. Okay, the hand matzah, which I'm sure everyone will have at the meal anyways. But so again, if you're going to add on to that matzah, you should add on the circle matzah, the hand matzah, not the machine matzah. Good question. Okay, good. Any of the mitzvahs we're going to fulfill. Korech, afikohen, should always fulfill with the hand matzah if you can. Good.
If you don't,
it's still matzah, but again, we're trying to fulfill a mitzvah on the highest level at this night. Okay? Okay?
What's the reason?
That is that. Why ham matzah is opposed to machine matzah? There's a whole question about machine matzah. Another discussion. Matzah has to be made lishma for the specific purpose of matzah. When you do it with a machine as opposed to a human being, the question is, can that fulfill this idea of lishma that is done for the matzah? But you pushing a button on your machine, does that count as lishma? That's the whole question. That's why ideally ham matzah is better. Okay. Good? Okay. So now, in terms of kazayas, you could spend weeks on trying to figure out what a kazayas is. We will not spend weeks doing that. What I would just suggest is either you go on the OU website. I'm sure many of you have this at your city. The OU has an amazing pamphlet, a packet for Pesach, which I'm sure a lot of your moms use to do cooking and things like that. It's a really great packet. In there, the OU has, or if you're Chicago CRC, Chicago. Should I see here? No? Okay. So no one here's from Chicago? Okay, wow. Okay. So CRC there. Okay. Or if you're Baltimore. Okay, we got the Star K. Okay, so there they also have Star K is also very, very good. England, we don't care about England. Okay, so CR of that. Okay, so Huff K.
No one cares.
Okay, so listen carefully. Here we go. Okay, just what I'm going to tell you is just look at your local magazine, which will have in it how much matzah you need. If I'll just tell you out loud, but you can look there if you actually want to match it up, and it's the following. This is actually from the Star K. They say for hand matzah, which is the circle, for a kazayis is about half a hand matzah. And I know I said before to have 2 kazayis, but you having half a hand matzah is totally fine. Just eat half a hand matzah. Therefore, you're going to get 2 small pieces. So break up another hand matzah, half a hand matzah at your plate, and if you're going to have machine matzah, again, you shouldn't. But if you're someone who's older and needs machine matzah or something like that, it's 2/3 of machine matzah. Okay? Now, I know that when I came back from Israel, I thought I'm so frum, and I'm sitting at the table, trying to measure the matzahs. Everyone thinks you're crazy. But you're not crazy. The truth is that there is a halacha here. So you don't have to show off, tell other people what to do, but for yourself, in order to fulfill the halacha properly, you should measure out the matzah. And like Rabbi was saying, as we talk about Marror, you should measure these things out. It's very important. People just eat the matzah, they may not be yotzei the mitzvah if you don't eat enough, okay? You'll probably eat enough anyways, but it's important to measure it out. Okay, as we said, 1 second, ideally 2 minutes. Again, if you're weak, if you're old, grandfather of the meal, they say even up to 9 minutes. So, we are lenient for those who need more time. Obviously, we said to lean. And when you're eating the matzah, my friends, and you're, chomping down that matzah, you should have in mind 2 things. Number 1, you're fulfilling a mitzvah from the Torah to eat matzah on the night of the Seder. And the second is, why do we eat matzahs at the meal? Because our matzahs did not rise as they left Egypt. So we try to remember that as we get some comments to do that as we go. And I'll say one final thing, and that is, you shouldn't talk. Technically, you shouldn't talk from when you start making the bracha, or actually from when you wash, right? You're going to wash before Motzi Matzah. You shouldn't talk until actually you finish Korech. Okay? Because you washed Motzi Matzah, Marror, and then Korech is actually kind of a continuation. You're eating that matzah that you made a bracha on a couple of minutes before. So ideally you shouldn't talk. Okay, you have to ask, pass this, pass that, it's fine. But you shouldn't be talking about sports or anything until at the meal, till the meal. Yeah.
Should the Korech be from the Motzi?
Oh, we didn't talk about that yet? Oh, we're talking about it now. Okay, any questions on matzah? We finished matzah. Any questions? Okay, follow from Al Tiyas Sedayim until after Korech. Maybe until Shulchan Aruch, basically. Okay? Any questions? Again, simple. You have the 2 pieces of matzah the Balai is going to pass out. You say amen, have in mind. You add on your own matzah, you lean, and that's it. Yeah? Quick.
Can you drink anything with it? And
No, not at all.
No, you can't drink anything
For sure
with
not,
it?
yeah.
What to help you
Digest? No. You have to eat the matzah all the time. The Gemara speaks about it. You need to eat it.
And what's the measurement needs to be again?
So that's what I'm saying. So the Star K holds it's about half of a hand matzah. So but you can look in your local. It's not so much. It's not so much to this. You break it up.
Full hand matzah?
No, have a half of it.
So that's for one.
I know. So that's why I say before it's a little confusing. I don't fully understand this myself also. But that half probably counts for 2 kazayis. So just eat half. I know it's confusing. We talk about it another time.
Half is 2 kazayis.
No, a half is 1 kazayis, but this 1 kazayis is a big kazayis. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's very, very confusing. I'm confused myself, but that's fine. You should eat that half of that. Yes.
Is the mitzvah just to eat it or to enjoy it? If you have to enjoy the matzah, or like you just.
What do you mean enjoy it? Like you love matzah?
Everyone knows it tastes bad.
Yeah. No.
Oh! Are you kidding?
Get out of here!
Oh my God!
Florida kid. Florida kid. Five Misa.
40 lashes.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Ski
Next.
law.
Yeah, let's do this quick. Here we go. The next we have is Marror. Listen carefully. Shop. Here we go. Marror. Okay? Marror. Here we go. Ready? During the times of the Beis HaMikdash, guys, I want to do this quickly. In the times of the Beis HaMikdash, the mitzvah to eat Marror was a d'oraisa. Why? Because the pasuk tells us, Al matzos u'merorim yocheluhu. You eat your matzah with your maror over a Korban Pesach. That's what we had back in the day. We don't have the Korban Pesach anymore. And therefore the matzah remains a d'oraisa. Very interesting. The matzah remains d'oraisa. Based on the pasuk of be'erev tofu matzos. We don't have a special pasuk for maror. Therefore the maror you're going to eat is a mitzvah midrabanan. We still follow mitzvahs midrabanan, but just to show us on a different level than the mitzvah of matzah. Okay, now what is maror? I'm sure if I went around and asked you what you ate at your meal, everyone has a different answer, but truthfully, based on the Gemara and based on the Shulchan Aruch, the ideal maror you have is
Celery.
lettuce. Okay, that is the ideal. That is the ideal maror. Oh, it doesn't taste bad. Okay, so they say that really it starts not so bitter, and then truthfully eventually does get bitter. I never had bitter lettuce, but that's what they say. They claim that it starts not bitter like in Mitzrayim. It started not so bad, and eventually became really, really bad. Okay, so ideally, what?
I've that like white maror. I don't know what is
What?
Horseradish.
Okay, so now, listen carefully. So that's the ideal. Now, there are some problems with this. The major problem, I would say, is, especially in America, is bugs. Okay? If you go to your local shop, okay, shop right in England, yeah? Or you go somewhere else, and you buy lettuce, you'll find is tens of bugs in your lettuce. Now, if you eat a bug, bad news. Okay, you're over 7, 6, or 8 lavim, and if you were at the times of the Beis HaMikdash, you would not be alive. Okay, so you should get whipped. So actually, you would be alive. You don't get killed by getting whipped, but you have to be very careful. So listen to this. I have spent in my own home, not in Israel, but in America, many hours. I'll be honest on Erev Pesach. This is my Erev Pesach job, checking the lettuce. Okay, now I'm not going to tell you to do that. What I will tell you to do is as follows. Okay, here in Israel we have what's called gush katif lettuce, where they already grow it in an area which is impossible for there to be bugs. So you just have to rinse it, and you're fine with that. It could be that in America they have that too, but if you're buying your standard lettuce from ShopRite, it's going to have bugs. So you need to be careful if you're going to use lettuce that you check it. Now, how do you check it? So you could again. I'm not telling you to do this. I'll just tell you what I did. But they have what is called a light box.
We should go home and do it, right?
They have what?
We should go home and do it.
No, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying this is what I personally did. I would sit there for hours and hours Pesach with this light box. You find tens of bugs in your lettuce. So I'm not telling you what to do. What I'm telling you is if you're going to eat lettuce, make sure there are no bugs. How you get rid of those bugs? You talk to me privately, but you want to make sure there are no bugs in your lettuce because if there are,
We just blend it up.
you are no. It's no.
You can't just
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Can you
Whole process. So whole process. Okay. If anyone wants to know the process, I can send you videos. They have videos online. Stark has good videos, and all you guys have videos on how to do this. But listen, if you're going to use lettuce, make sure there are no bugs. Okay? How much lettuce are you supposed to eat? You're supposed to eat a nice sized piece of lettuce. Go on your OU website and you'll see what's saying. It's a nice sized piece of lettuce. It is not a small piece of lettuce. Okay? A kazai is a nice big piece of lettuce. Okay, and you have to finish that similarly. Now, since it's not a d'oraisa, we don't have to do 2 minutes. I would say closer to 3 to 4 minutes. You got to chomp on that maror. You got to eat, Greg. You got to eat that maror. When you eat your maror, again, so what bracha do we say? Allah chilas maror. And same thing, we have in mind that we're fulfilling a mitzvah and the fact that the Egyptians embittered our lives in Egypt. Do we lean? No, we do not lean from maror. So you just sit there, listen carefully. You finish Motzi Matzah, the Baal Habayis. Actually, not necessarily the Baal Habayis. You yourself could say to yourself, but you take your maror, you take your lettuce, and you say, what do you do with the lettuce? You dip it in charoset, and then you shake it off. The idea is, you shake it off. The idea is that when you're actually going to eat it, it shouldn't be so sweet. So you dip it in the charoset, reasons why we do that, and you knock it off, and then you say, Allah Marror. You do not lean. You said what to say. Eat it between 2 and 4 minutes, and it's a large piece of lettuce. So if you're going to do lettuce, check that out. Now, does anyone here do the, with what? Yeah, that stuff.
Yeah, the white.
Okay, so that's the good stuff. So that really gets you going. Okay, wakes you up for sure. that also, if you're going to do that, make sure it's a kazayas.
And that makes
Okay,
it
so
alright.
also, make sure it's a kazayas.
With each of the brachos, it needs to be
Kazayas, yeah. So again, Sparalka, make sure it's a kazayas. How much? Again, check your local book. Okay, so, but that, listen to me. The problem with that is that can you finish a kazayas in 2 to 4 minutes? I don't know. You could, yes. Okay, fine. Okay, not everyone can. Okay, there are those who combine also. They'll do some lettuce and some crane. But okay, any questions on Marror? Question? Yeah, quick. Okay, let's finish up Korech. Quick, yeah.
I did. Can't you just blend up the lettuce and like?
No. You cannot.
Are you allowed to combine?
You could if you want. The ideal is just lettuce. If you want to combine, yes, just make sure that anything is ice in total.
What? It doesn't matter how small the pieces are.
For what?
The lettuce, if it's like so
It needs to
fine
be.
or
No,
pieces.
wait. What do you mean? In terms of the actual lettuce?
Yeah, like what if it's iceberg lettuce?
Those are still leaves.
Doesn't it have to be?
Yeah, but it's
It's-
not as strong as a leaf as like romaine.
No, it's fine. As long as the leaves in total add up to a kazayas, you can have small, 5 smaller pieces.
But doesn't
But it
it
needs
have
to
to
add.
be lettuce?
Oh, you're talking about a different type of lettuce?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Ideally, I think ideally I wrote romaine. I don't know what's never seen iceberg.
Iceberg is this.
Not a lettuce.
It's a crispy.
lettuce.
Romaine's that okay, so maybe not. So I don't know the differences, but yeah, I guess maybe ideally it should be romaine lettuce. Okay, let's finish with Korech. Finally, Korech is a mitzvah midirabanan. What happened was there was someone at the time of the Beis Hamikdash named Hillel Hazaken. And Hillel Hazaken, because they want to have, we want to remember what happened in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, that they had Matzos and Morim together. Therefore, we have this Zecher. It's a remembrance for the times of the Beis Hamikdash. You'll see in your Haggadah different opinions. Some say they say this phrase, Zecher and Mikdash Hillel. Some say you say it before you take your bite of Korech, and some say it afterwards. Okay, so different opinions, follow your family custom. Each one is totally fine. If you say this phrase to remember, Hillel instituted this idea of having matzah and maror together. Same thing, you have to have a kazayas of matzah, kazayas of maror. What we're lucky here though is that this matzah is not a deoraisa, it's a dirabanan, and therefore we can have less matzah. So Josh, for your calculations here, this is going to be a quarter of a hand matzah. Okay, so a quarter of a hand matzah is going to be the amount of kazayas for Korech, which is not so much, and for maror also it's going to be the same amount for maror because it's both midirabanan. So yes, thank you, Josh. So we are going to put in charosa. So you have it's a sandwich. What's a sandwich? You have matzah, and you have maror, and you have charosa. Very good.
Can it be open faced?
And what?
Can it be open faced?
Can be open faced. Mean not to have a matzah on the top.
Does it have to be a sandwich?
Sounds like you should. I don't know. Sounds like I don't know. That's true. I'm not sure. Okay, but the same thing. Listen to this. Okay, you're munching on your sandwich. You're leaning, okay, and it's getting all over you. So it's awesome. Okay, just make sure you're leaning to the side. You're eating but again, same thing. Eat it within 2 to 4 minutes. Okay, so that's why from Alan Tiyas Sadayim all the way until now, which whoever takes over until Shulchan Aruch, just do the mitzvahs. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, you have Al Chilas Matzah and Hamotzi. You have that mitzvah. No talking. Okay, if you need to talk about the meal, you can. But then jump to Marror. You finish Marror. Now let's make our sandwich. Okay, no talking. Marror, matzah, charoset. Put it all together. There's no bracha, but there is a zecher. Again, it depends on your Haggadah or your family custom. You say before or after. You lean, then you're done. Again, eat that also within 2 to 4 minutes. And then you're done. Okay, and that is going to lead you all the way to the Shulchan Aruch, which is the next part of the Seder. Any questions on Korech? Yes?
Why don't we put meat in there instead?
Meat.
It's
Because of the
Zecher.
Korban Pesach?
Yes.
Interesting. We don't actually try to remember the Korban. Meaning we don't eat meat. That's why we don't eat meat that is necessarily roasted at the meal because we don't want what? Yeah, we don't want to say this is actually it's a zecher. We don't want to say that it's actually the meat for that. Okay. Any other questions on either matzah, maror, or korech? Again, check your local magazine for the actual measurements. Yes.
So there's no actual obligation to eat the horseradish. Like the maror, just the leaf is what it is.
It's ideal. The leaf. It's actually ideal.
And then, but the horseradish is just a minhag, an extra thing.
They're basically the Mishnah lists 5 types of maror. It's already in the Mishnah lists 5 of them. One is called chazeret, which is actually confusing because chazeret nowadays in Hebrew actually is the horseradish. Chazeret in the times of the Mishnah was the lettuce. Then you have the chrein, which is the name. I forgot the name. It's a different name in the Mishnah. So it's last. It's not the highest quality of maror. So there are those who do that. But again, the goal is to
Put that with
you can put them together if you want. I'm not telling you not to. If your family minhag is to have grain for hundreds of years, so do that. I'm saying that if you're if you don't know or you have an option, the ideal is lettuce. The only problem with lettuce is the bug problem. So you have to try to figure that out. And if anyone wants help with that, you can let me know.